think that also their location is a challenge, where they're located far from the universities. And I thought that there was a big opportunity for the private sector to work together hand in hand with the Department of Higher Education and Training to help reduce the shortage of students' accommodation in the country.
Now, when you talk about 2.25 billion rands worth of portfolio that you're looking at, is this property that already exists that you're seeking to purchase, and that's why you're coming to the JSE to raise those funds?
Yes, most definitely. We are an income generating fund. We're targeting to obviously pay out distributions to those people that invest in the fund. So therefore, we can't buy assets being developed. We are buying buildings that already have students in them, very fresh buildings that are of international quality in terms of standards, with decent accommodation being very important, in my view, to enable students to pass. So everything we're buying already has a student in it.
And in terms of locations and geographies, what sort of locations are you looking at?
Nombo, in our surveys over the past 2 years into the sector, we realized that the most important aspects of student accommodation are firstly security, and more importantly, location. The kids want to be close to the university so they can walk to the university. They don't have to use a taxi, they don't have to use a bus, and they can always use the university facilities close to where they're staying. So we definitely are not going to be buying anything that's more than 600 meters to a kilometer from the university, which is very important, as I've said, to make sure that as soon as a student finishes their lectures, they can just run to their residence and continue studying or get something to eat and maybe go back to varsity to use some of the facilities.
Now, I'll touch on this issue first because it's quite important before we talk about pricing and costs. You're talking about 30%, up to 30% black ownership participation in the listing. You're going to be creating a special purpose vehicle for that, specifically where black investors can get a discount. Just explain a little bit how that's going to work, and also at the tail end of your answer, advise the viewers where they can get more information.
So basically, in my view, what's important here is to make sure that the retail market gets a chance to invest on the JSE. We've been talking about it, saying there's white monopoly capital this and black monopoly capital that. Why don't we just create an opportunity for people to invest on the JSE and invite them to be shareholders on JSE listed entities, especially in the property space? And also because the property asset class we're going for is a defensive one, Nombo. The economy is going down at the moment, but our students are still in university. They will continue to need a place to stay in, and people know that property prices generally, compared to other asset classes, tend to go up. If at all things are not going great, they'll be flat, but they never decline. We haven't seen them go down in the country over years. So it's important for us to invite people to participate in this spec that we will be creating once the main company is listed, to make sure that people can invest as well alongside the big investors who are wanting to invest in this entity. We want to empower communities. We want to empower Stokvels. We want to make sure that we don't just continue the same pattern where the rich get richer and people at the bottom can invest. For example, our investment started 5,000 rands per individual investor, and in order for people to get in touch and find out how they can invest with us, they must come to us. We'll invite them to subscribe. Once we get information from them, we can open a stockbroking account for them where they will deposit money, and then that money on allocation day of shares, they'll get their shares. And we are on.
What's your website?
Well, our website is www.iwgsa.co.za, and there's a link there called ISAF. They go into ISAF and then they'll find more information, or they can call our office on 010-786-0222, and then these guys ready to support them, or send an email to invest@iwgsa.co.za. We'll be able to support them with any of the questions they have.
Now, in terms of the operations of this big project that you're setting up, how are you going to manage things like what sort of rentals are you going to be looking at, and what do you see as the main cost drivers, and how are you going to deal with the fact that student accommodation is very seasonal, so maybe 4 months out of the 12 months you have vacant properties?
So there's a very valid questions you're asking. Firstly, from an operational perspective, we're checking on the staff that's already managing the assets, trying not to get rid of anyone on the payroll at the moment. The economic times are tough. We'll make sure that we carry those people as best as possible. And then more importantly, Nombu, the price range that you asked for, we want to make sure that it's a price range where, even those people at the bottom end of the scale in terms of affordability can stay in our facilities. 1,800 rands is the minimum, bed cost in some of our assets. And it goes all the way up to 6,000, Nombu, because we're buying assets across the country. And for that reason, I think we need to be price relevant per location, per city. So that's why our price range is quite wide to accommodate as many students as possible. And besides, we're trying to create an integrated community out there. So we must be able to make sure that in some of the assets where guys pay like 4,500 rands, we can create room for some people to pay 3,000 rands in those assets who are supported by their individual parents. And in environments where that pricing is too nippy, we then go down to 1,800 rands. Obviously, those assets we're buying there also accommodate that pricing range.
And now, when do you think that the IPO, the initial public offering, is going to take place?
So it's going to be a private placement where we're going to invite people to join us, and subscribe for shares in the entity. We submitted our first submission of the pre-listing statement to the JSE yesterday, by the way, and we're excited about that. So we're looking at listing the entity in September, and I believe that we'll be running a nice marketing campaign to make sure people are aware of where to get in touch with us to participate. I think, Nombo, the most important thing in my view is for a company coming onto the JSE with 30% black ownership. That is proper radical economic transformation right there.
It really is.
And that's how we come to the end of